Hello, ladies and gents. Who am I kidding? Hello, gents. Or maybe just hello, gent. Given that we're getting closer to Part 3's first true marketing beat, I thought I'd offer you a recap on the first two games, starting with Remake. Whilst I can't guarantee you it will be the best recap video you've ever seen, I can guarantee you that it will be a video. Every legendary story begins somewhere, and one place it certainly isn't is England, given the fact there's a bloody train running. And this train has a very special occupant. Enter Cloud Strife, mercenary ex-soldier and longtime poster boy for Migraine Monthly. He steps off the train wielding the iconic Buster Sword, half blade, half affordable housing solution, and definitely not a reference to anything else.
Do you think maybe he's compensating for something?
Cloud's first job? Help Avalanche, a small but surprisingly successful eco-terrorist group, blow up one of Shinra's Mako reactors. Mako, by the way, is an energy derived from the souls of everyone's dead relatives, but with a remarkably small carbon footprint. Shinra runs the planet like Amazon probably would, so naturally they're upset when some punks led by Barrett, Veins in the Forehead Wallace, start sabotaging their revenues. Avalanche, not the greatest planners ever, have three key elements to their mission statement. 1. Blow up reactors. 2. Run away. 3. Buy very hard hats and think very seriously about ceilings. The team includes Jessie, tech whiz,
thirsty for Cloud.
Biggs, handsome, slightly doomed, not,
thirsty for Cloud.
and Wedge, cat-loving comic relief, is Badger from Breaking Bad, and looks up to and is probably
thirsty for Cloud.
Their reactor bombing succeeds, but not without a few hiccups, like a boss fight against a robot scorpion that you absolutely should hit whilst its tail is up. We also have the first proper deviation from the OG, with Avalanche's bomb initially being about as impactful as a fart in a hurricane. But then Shinramazon decides blowing up lots of things and framing on Avalanche is handy dandy, so they purposefully make things go boom. Now, if you think for even a moment this is forced change due to modern cultural mindset weighing heavily versus 1990s pre-9/11 slightly romanticised perceptions of terrorism, I would say yes. So they escape and split up. Cloud flirts with his boyfriend, Sephiroth, who probably maybe is not the primary antagonist of the whole show, who decides more is definitely more by showing up 25 hours early versus the OG. The silver-haired wonder sticks around long enough to get Cloud all hot and bothered, and even teases him about not being able to say one of his 3 girlfriends. A flower seller without a name who is definitely most certainly perhaps not Aerith. He does this all because he is
thirsty for Cloud.
Aerith, who is most definitely
thirsty for Cloud.
Likes him so much she infects him with a future flu, a unique STI that allows Cloud to get hints of the future, but only at narratively beneficial moments.
Great.
Cloud buys a flower from Aerith, if you want him to or not, and off he goes. She also appears to be chased by ghosts. Odd, but I'm pretty sure that's the last we'll see of them. Cloud escapes the seemingly numberless guards and hops on another of these strange moving and functional trains. We learn Midgar is a dystopian cake, a gleaming plate city on top for the rich, slums below for everyone else. Shinramazon supplies both energy and oppression in equal measure, again demonstrating Squaresoft's ability to rival Nostradamus for sheer on-the-nose predictions of the corporate future. Cloud meets Tifa, his childhood friend turned bartender, and offers her the flower. Sorry, Marlene. Tifa rejects it because she is Barrett's wife, and Barrett throws Cloud out the bar forever. Joking! Barrett doesn't throw Cloud out the bar. Tifa's the kind of love interest who punches monsters in the throat between cocktail shifts and still finds time to check in on Cloud's emotional well-being, which to be fair is a full-time job. She is also
thirsty for Cloud.
Their reunion is touching, with sexiness and suspicion in equal measure. Tifa remembers him one way, Cloud remembers, well, not very much. It's all a bit wibbly-wobbly. Cloud wants his money, but Avalanche, being the absolute liabilities of the terrorist world, spent all their money on Pez and can't afford to pay Cloud in full. Tifa does, however, offer Cloud a room in a suspiciously nice apartment block that seems much nicer than the shacks many have in the slums, which begs the question of why more buildings like this aren't built, but that's one for Reeve, I guess. In said apartment block, there is a sexual tension present between the two neighbours, a dynamic, fizzling, raunchy energy. But this is interrupted by Tifa, who's jealous of Discount Sephiroth and breaks things up. Discount Sephiroth is a robed man with a tattoo who is definitely, maybe, not possibly, perhaps important for the plot later. Cloud receives his money via a suspiciously rackety racket featuring selling water filters for hundreds of gil, but more importantly it allows the player to explore the slums. We meet the residents, get into fights, flirt with Tifa, play darts, oh hi mum, cats, a pigeon, a dragon, jukeboxes and stuff. Now out of respect for Remake and FF7, I won't refer to any of these side quests as padding. They're all important to the residents of the slums after all. Anyway, after an hour of schmadding, we return back to 7th Heaven, where Tifa is umming and ahhing over the mission and pouring 2 strong hits of coffee? Deviating from the OG, Cloud is not actually part of the briefing. In fact, we're informed that he is surplus to requirements and given the old heave-ho. We do, however, get to hear Discount Aerith break the 4th wall, which is fun.
Sorry to keep you thirsty boys waiting.
We get to beat up some goons and head back for some rest. Discount Aerith pops along and has a mission for Cloud. The mission is, I forget, something about pizza and explosives and stuff. The important thing is that it's time dedicated to exploring the Avalanche team, and whilst none of it's in FF7 OG, it's genuinely sweet, and I personally got attached to each of them so much I will no longer refer to Jessie as Discount Aerith. Anyway, Discount Aerith, who at this point is drought level thirsty for Cloudy Boy, promises to host him for pizza night, where one suspects the night is the operative word and the pizza is a euphemism, and off we trot to Sleepy Town. Now at this point things get really wibbly wobbly and the collective spider sense of all OG purists begins to tingle. The strange ghostly things have returned and they've brought their friends. Fights ensue and Jessie sustains a nasty plot injury. The ghosty things appear to want Cloud to go with Avalanche on the next bombing mission, probably because they are
Thirsty for Cloud.
I'm sure that's the last we'll see of them, and they definitely won't end up being one of the most divisive elements of the re-trilogy, so let's just move on. We head to the train, most likely stopping off to buy guff from a character called Chadley, who is a young boy dressed in knee-high socks and shorts, just in case you forgot you're playing a Japanese game. But again, I'm sure he won't become an all-encompassing aspect of Part 2, so let's forget all about him. On the train, unsurprisingly, things don't go particularly well, and you're either thrown out the train via cuddles from Tifa, or if you fail to beat the timer, all on your lonesome. You then spend far too long on a tour of Midgar's industrial spaces, like a school trip planned by the world's most sadistic teacher, and we eventually get to the reactor pen for demolition. The team scrap their way through yet more schmadding, following a convoluted system of disabling the boss you're about to fight. Now, I'm personally thrilled that SE run an equal opportunity scheme for people who are numerically dyslexic. I'm less thrilled that they are clearly putting these people on this timing game. That said, we do eventually reach the conclusion of this, that it's all televised by Shinra. They've been filming the whole tedious, drawn-out thing and plan to televise the nonsense for its massive audience. Fighty fighty pew pew, and just like the OG, Cloud goes budget skydiving. Cloud gets another attack of wibbly wobblies when his boyfriend arrives to tell him he is Cloud's everything. Because he is
Thirsty for Cloud.
in the unhealthiest of fashions. Then Cloud wakes up to find a literal goddess kneeling over him. She introduces herself as Aerith. Aerith is relentlessly pursued by Shinra and asks Cloud to be her bodyguard in return for a date, because she is
Thirsty for Cloud.
and Cloud accepts because he is
Thirsty for Aerith.
if you're a Clarith shipper, or because he feels sorry for her if you are wrong. The two fight and flirt their way out of the church via a scrap with Reno, a man who has the appearance of a Yakuza crossed with what you think a radical feminist looks like, and end up having a rooftop walk across the slums. We also get to hear this music. Oh, it's so good. Cloud gets to catch Aerith thanks to the world's most Clarith pigeon, and the two make their way to Aerith's house. On the way, the game keeps beating the player over the head with how loved Aerith is in that kind of, oh, wouldn't it be a shame if anything happened to her kind of way, and we finally get to what must be the most prime real estate in all of Midgar, Elmira and Aerith's house. Elmira gives Cloud the full mother-in-law treatment, and we're on to the next load of gushmadding, where Cloud engages in vital activities such as flower picking, child minding, fetch quests, and not to mention rekindling his romance with the Black Robe crew. Eventually we make it back to Aerith's house, where Elmira goes all mother bear and asks Cloud to leave during the night to save Aerith's feelings. Cloud obliges, not before knocking over every bloody thing on the way out, and escapes, only to find Aerith waiting for him ready for a trip to Sector 7. Cloud has a glimpse of the future that makes him cry and OG purists extremely nervous, before embarking on a quest to discover crane operation and the intricacies of High 5. The two get to Wall Market, not before a great scene in the park, followed by us seeing that Tifa is on her way to meet Don Corneo. Aerith convinces Cloud we should rescue Tifa, and on we go to the den of vice and debauchery that is Wall Market. Well, I say that, it's actually more like Vegas, or in fact any lively nighttime spot. Gone are the slightly dodgy overtones and ominous threat to women, or the cross-dressing and themes of hidden homosexuality that was still pretty edgy in the late 90s. Still fun though, as we navigate the town in pursuit of a way into both Don Corneo's mansion and his underwear. Rather than assembling Cloud's outfit as per the OG, Cloud and Aerith must impress a trio of judges? Once they have their recommendations, Aerith and Cloud, who is now looking only slightly more feminine than your dad in a wig, manage to infiltrate Don Corneo's mansion and become the candidates for the Don's affections. Inexplicably, Cloud is picked by the Don over Aerith and Tifa, despite Cloud still looking like K-pop meets Nanny McPhee. Unlike some alternative scenarios you may have seen, Tifa and Aerith escape their captors to help Cloud squeeze the Don for information. Don, under a degree of duress, lets them know that Shinramazan are going to go all Mario on Sector 7, literally crushing Avalanche and everyone else. Like the OG, the team end up in the sewers. This time though, you get to pick your favourite of the romances via a simple who do you help first mechanic. You then get to fight a big slobbering beast, which I can only assume is Essie reflecting the player back to themselves, and then it's on to the train graveyard. Now, I personally love the scary vibe of this setting. It's genuinely creepy, and I like the child catcher premise. The issue is, up to this point, Aerith has been suggesting that she knows what's happening regarding the impending verticality issues Sector 7's plate is going to experience. We therefore should be in a hurry to get back. What the train graveyard section does is derail the momentum. We are suddenly pulled out of our sprint back to our friends by a spot of ghost busting, which does feel a tad odd. Doesn't seem to be in keeping with the spirit of the context. The group eventually get back to Sector 7 and the Pillar. This is where fun and games with the narrative move from sweet additions to becoming significant changes to the DNA of FF7. At first, the OG and Remake are fairly closely aligned. Aerith looks after things on the ground floor, with Cloud, who is joined by Tifa, ascending the Pillar to help with the fight versus Shinramazan. Then things become significantly more wibbly-wobbly, as Wedge, who is not mortally wounded, helps evacuate much of Sector 7. Aerith finds Marlene and interestingly seems to share her memory of the future with her. Meanwhile, Cloud and Tifa ascend the Pillar, meeting dying members of Avalanche with suitably sad farewell scenes. Well, maybe. More on that later. Eventually they meet Barrett, and together they unsuccessfully defend the Pillar. They also learn that Aerith is now in the custody of Shinramazan. Like the OG, they take an amazingly fun exit route, and now a largely empty Sector 7 is crushed. Wedge survives the plate collapse via some mightily inconsistent plot armour, or the power of cats or something, and we fade to black. When we come to, the first port of call is to check in with Elmira, who now has Marlene safe and sound. We learn about Aerith's background as the last in a long line of druidy, wibbly-wobbly people who Shinramazan are really quite keen on. After that, it's off to Sector 7, where we discover that both Wedge is alive and that there is a Shinramazan test site directly under Sector 7. After having a good old search of said lab, it's back to Elmira's with an injured Wedge. Cloud attempts to convince Elmira that going after Aerith, who is now in Shinra HQ, is a good idea, something Elmira is a tad grumpy about. Cloud then has a resolution scene with either Barrett, Tifa or Aerith, though Aerith is far and away the trippiest, with a future version of Aerith appearing to Cloud, warning him not to fall in love with her. All three are good fun though. Elmira then realises she doesn't really want Aerith being a test subject for the rest of a most likely short life, and gives Cloud the green light for a rescue mission to the upper plate. The team immediately set off to make that happen. And by immediately, I mean after a few hours of gerdadding. No, I don't care, Leslie. Just tell us how to get to the upper plate. No, I don't want to go back to the sewers. No, I don't want to go back to the Shinra underground lab. Yes, SE, I know it took you guys a long time, and yes, I know dev isn't cheap, but once you've seen one dark, improbably evil lab, you've really seen them all. Eventually, we do get Tifa up to the upper plate via some very conveniently placed ruins. After a bit of a slog, we find ourselves at a beautifully rendered Shinra HQ, complete with an incredibly well-defended basement, but strangely a very quiet lobby. Like the OG, you can pick whether you want to take the stairs or the elevators. Also like the OG, the stairs are about as much fun as a 16-hour flight with your ex's dad, and proof that Cloud's cardio game isn't as strong as he thinks. The only way I entertain myself in this section is by imagining how terribly Aerith, Skip's leg day Gainsborough, would have handled this whole situation.
My legs are killing me.
On reaching the upper levels and having said "the mayor" multiple times like a particularly civic-minded Jehovah's Witness, plus enjoyed some genuinely interesting corporate marketing, the gang make it to the source of all evil and corruption in Midgar HQ. I am, of course, referring to Chadley, who has somehow made his way here to torture us with his global monopoly on all top-tier materia. After doing his bidding, the team resume their ascent and finally happen across an important meeting of the Ridiculous Laugh Club, featuring Hojo, the creepiest gynecologist since all the other male gynecologists. He has a sick plan to extend the longevity of Aerith's bloodline, and let's just say he's feline pretty good about it. I'm so alone. The team follow Hojo to Aerith, and they manage to break her out of captivity, but not before our friendly time ghosty things stop Hojo from revealing the details of Cloud's slightly unconventional military background. Cloud revels in the spotlight of heroism with his now legendary response to seeing Aerith echoing through the annals of gaming history.
You came for me!
Yep.
We are introduced to everyone's favourite lab rat dog, Red 13, and Aerith gives him her special future virus. Cloud goes all wibbly wobbly, and we wake up in Aerith's bedroom because Aerith is
Thirsty for Cloud.
and just wants to make this happen. We learn, through a good old-fashioned exposition dump from Red, and much to the confusion of just about everyone including the audience, that Casper and his not-so-friendly ghost chums are actually whispers. Spirits of OG players past, dedicated to ensure Nomura et al. Don't have too much fun when making these games. If you slow them down, you can actually make out what they are saying.
Aerith must die for reasons.
So the ghosts want Remake to follow the OG. Got that, audience? Good. The gang leave to do something. I've forgotten. Oh yeah, that's it. Get to the roof. But not before Cloud's boyfriend makes appearance number 157 to make Cloud go wibbly wobbly, and this results in the team playing girls versus boys for far too bloody long. We eventually get past that tush madding and find our way onto the roof. Barrett dies and the party mourns. Wait, hold on. I probably should have put more emphasis on that. Barrett dies. But it's only for lols as a friendly whisper comes along and brings him back to life. Just like the OG, the president of Shinra, who maybe isn't but maybe is probably not Cloud's dad, snuffs it, meaning his son, who is one part Carlisle from Twilight, one part Switch from The Matrix, and one part Japanese dominatrix, is now the boss and makes an appearance. Cloud and Rufus scrap because Rufus is
Thirsty for Cloud.
Despite the fact they may be related, and pew pew bang crash, we find ourselves on the unreasonably long highways of Midgar. We defeat a rather annoying boss who was a complete arse in the OG too, and then, well, someone forgets to lock the dungeons at SE Towers and Nomura escapes, signalling the absolute pinnacle of wibbly wobblies. Casper and roughly 10 million of his friends show up. We have boundaries of fate to cross, and we even end up fighting fate itself, along with ghosts from Advent Children, visions of the OG future that suggest the party are trying to avoid that outcome, and Cloud's boyfriend makes appearance 376. On this occasion, he's talking about 7 seconds, either hinting at a choice in part 3 or to manage Cloud's expectations in the bedroom. The team successfully defeat fate, opening a realm of possibilities. In fact, to demonstrate the true wibbly-wobbly potential, Zack is saved by Casper and friends, and he makes his way to Midgar carrying a Cloud that looks like me after a sniff of the house white. We even see that Biggs is still alive. Can't wait to see the epic role he plays in Rebirth. Now, just to close this out, I want to give a little bit of a verdict. I enjoyed Remake. I enjoyed it when I played it again numerous times. Was it perfect? Certainly not. The developer hell was deeply apparent as the game was painfully reliant on too few assets. Many scenes were sanitized for a younger or more modern audience or to retain a more universal certification. A lot of locations lacked the edge they had in OG, like Honeybee Inn or the upper levels of Shinra HQ. The destruction of Sector 7 slums was ruined, ironically. Sephiroth, like all monsters, lost his aura when we were introduced to him so early on in the game. He even became a bit of a joke at times because he was so
thirsty for Cloud.
But having said all that, so many parts were done right. Exploring the slums with Tifa was genuinely fun. Meeting Avalanche, despite the slightly weak premise, was done with humour and love. It wasn't weak trash like so much of the new additions within the compilation. Looking out at the spectre of Midgar at night, it was genuinely magical. Despite the fact I was a purist going into this, the changes won me over. Genuinely. You see, the magic of FF7 OG can never be repeated. It was a seminal moment of video gaming history. It was new, unique, especially for the legions of players who were completely new to JRPGs. It was a moment in players' lives that can never happen again, like the house you grew up in that never seems as big when you return to it after so many years. Remasters can scratch an itch, but the best games don't seek to satisfy an existing urge. They look to create all new ones. Having Aerith with that edge, that hinted knowledge, constantly suggesting something bigger, teased that there was a whole other level to this. That there may be all new twists and turns, creating all new seminal moments, but this time for another generation of gamers. And that's the real strength of Remake. Not that it perfectly recreates what came before, but that it dares to reimagine it. It's messy, it's bold, it's sometimes frustrating, but it also carries that spark that made Final Fantasy VII timeless in the first place. We don't know where Part 3 will take us, whether it will double down on nostalgia, lean into chaos, or attempt to thread the needle between both. But we do know one thing, for better or worse, we're all strapped to this roller coaster now, and honestly, I wouldn't have it any other way.